Let me first start out by saying this anime is simply gorgeous. The character designs, the animation, I am in love with the aesthetic to the show. The character designs are super unique. Like, each one of these characters feels completely different than the other, and they all properly represent the Zodiac sign that they represent. Some are super obvious with it, like the monkey, but then you have people like the girl who is the psychopath, but she represents the pig, the boar, and her earrings just immediately you know which Zodiac sign she represents just from her earrings and just aesthetic alone. And that's how you properly do character models. You don't just make them kind of a cut and paste of each other, you make them distinct and you make them unique. And I love how kind of jagged the character designs are. It's not this very smooth, kind of like silky smooth character designs where everything is nice and polished and clean. No, they're jagged, they're rough. It gives you the sense of just grittiness, which really helps when you have a battle royale anime. And then with the animation, holy hell. The anime pretty much kicks off with a fight scene, and this fight scene is simply beautiful. I don't remember the last time I saw an anime where it had motion blur. That's mainly because most people criticize motion blur, which it can be obnoxious. But the way they were using it with this one girl fighting, and she was pretty much jumping around, it gave you this beautiful sense of speed, and you couldn't quite tell where her character model was because it wasn't super polished. It had this blur effect to it, and it just made it look beautiful. And I can tell that this is going to be a gorgeous looking series, both in action and outside of action, and I am pumped for more. The overall idea to this show is pretty basic on a surface level, but being wrote by the same man who wrote the Monogatari light novels, who is known to write good characters, I can tell that the 12 characters in this war, if not a bit more, are going to have some pretty good personalities, which we already got a good sense of within this episode. But the overall idea is essentially this. We have this guy who is hosting this kind of battle royale tournament, so to speak. He says the winner of it is going to get a cure. The cure is essentially, each of them swallowed this like crystal gem that can only be destroyed by stomach acid, and it's going to disintegrate in 12 hours. Only one winner can be claimed, and you need to have all 12 of these jewels. You'll get a cure, but you'll also get any one wish of your desire. And essentially, each of the 12 contestants are representing the Zodiac sign on the Chinese calendar. I think it's the Chinese calendar, if I'm not mistaken. And essentially, it's going to be a gore fest. I mean, you get a sense of it. This anime isn't censoring it. They're not holding back. There's going to be a lot of gore, which some people are going to probably already start calling it an edge fest, which it easily could be, but as of right now, I would say it's not. It's just kind of psychopath insane. And essentially, I have this feeling that we're going to focus on quite a few different perspectives, because the way this episode ends is essentially, it seems like the boar is killed, but then again, she easily could recruit an ally, she might get out of this alive, and either way, I'm fine with it. But this episode primarily focuses on her perspective and what she did to her sister, because essentially her sister was apparently like chosen for this war, and she wasn't, and she didn't take too kindly to that, so she started manipulating her sister into being a psychopath. She started like making out with the guy that she supposedly liked, and then started really twisting her perspective on reality and turning her into just a mad killing machine, to the point that she ends up killing herself and her parents have to choose her to enter this war. She's insane. But that's why I like this anime so much, because you really don't get a sense of, I don't think any of these characters are truly going to be that good of characters. I think they're all going to be sick and twisted in their own way. Like, you have this one rabbit, this bunny man, which is very interesting, because typically in anime, when you have the kind of bunny-like characters who are like humanoid bunnies, it's usually on females, and they do that kind of female bunny fan service, but they did it to a male character this time, and there's hardly anything covering up this guy. But it's kind of a breath of fresh air to see an anime go the route of making the fan service bunny character a guy, which I appreciate. Like, it feels like each of the genders are gonna have like their own kind of like fan servicey moments to it, but I'd at least appreciate if they're gonna throw in the bunny man and you're gonna make it fan servicey, at least they spiced it up a bit here. But at the core, this was a very kind of gory and violent episode, but you did get a sense of personality and personal stories within this episode with the boar character, and I'm gonna just probably refer to all these characters by the symbol that they represent. It'll be much easier than remembering their individual names, and essentially her backstory with her sister. And I'm curious if the remaining 11 episodes, because I believe this is a 12 episode series, is going to kind of do the similar thing. Like, as you're fighting, you're going to learn like what brought them into the war, and ultimately where they're going with their character, which I think would be a proper thing to do. And battle royale anime tend to typically fail within anime, because I do feel like they just either rely on the action, they don't characterize their characters, so when someone's head does get cut off, you're just like, well, it was a random character, who cares? So I hope that this series is going to continue on the path that it's set up within this episode, because if it can characterize these characters, the deaths and what happens to them is going to have much more of an impact than most of these other kind of edge-fest battle royale style anime. And being wrote by the guy who wrote Monogatari, which is one of my all-time favorite series, who is known to write amazing characters, I do have a lot of faith within this series. Really, only time will tell. I think, overall, this was a good first episode. I was pleasantly surprised. I went in with, like, medium expectations. I didn't think it was going to be complete trash within the first episode, but I didn't think it was going to be amazing. But I think, overall, this was a great first episode. It got you interested in what these characters are going to bring you. It has you interested in seeing what's going to happen to this girl after she got kind of skewered by this necromancer bunny man. And it's going to be interesting to see ultimately who's going to be the final victor by the end of this. I'm just interested in this series overall. Very excited, very pleasantly surprised. This is a series that, like, obviously if you're not a huge fan of action, things like that, this might not be the anime for you. But for me, I think this just has a good balance at this moment of characterization, but also good action overall with gorgeous presentation. And honestly, the electronic OST that they're using surprisingly works well with it. I'm not a huge fan of that genre, but honestly, I feel like just overall, this had everything it needed to get you interested in wanting to watch future episodes, and I'm very excited for more. But let me know your thoughts on this wonderful first episode down in the comment section below. What did you think? And what do you think's going to happen to this girl at the very end of the episode? Do you think she's going to come out of it alive, or are we going to be focusing on new characters next week? Let me know your thoughts, and before I leave, smack that like button to show your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.